working closely with the CIPD students at Herefordshire College of Technology regarding a mock employment tribunal. The students haven't done their employment law module on the course yet, and so we wanted to work with them on explaining how employment tribunal works and how the proceedings work leading up to the actual hearing and what the tribunal is like in itself. We went through the witness statements and the documents that were prepared in the bundle to start preparing a skeleton argument for the hearing on the day. As a group, we started to develop the questions that we were going to be asking certain witnesses, and so the whole group could work together in getting to an end result.
As preparation for the mock tribunal, Kidwells prepared the documents that would be used throughout the proceedings, so setting up a case scenario and supporting documents like contracts of employment and policies that are commonly found in the workplace. We then also went out together to meet with the students, to go through the documents and to coach them in advocacy.
The students were all so enthusiastic about what they were doing. They jumped straight into the role of preparing for a tribunal case and becoming advocates. We worked with them on cross-examination techniques, how not to lead a witness into giving a correct answer or leading them.
On the day we set it up to look as much like a real tribunal scenario as we could. We had panel members drawn from people known to Kidwells. We also had witnesses who were again drawn from people known to Kidwells or from Kidwells.
5 hours of footage was taken on the day of the tribunal. As you will see from this video, we've condensed it down into a 30-minute snapshot. We hope you enjoy the video.
Can we call Barry Clark, please?
Morning.
Can you please confirm your name and your address to the panel, please?
Yes, my name is Barry Clark of Orchard End, Cannon Pie, Hereford.
Could you read through your statement, please, Barry?
Yes. I am the Managing Director of Clark Commercials, which I run with my son, Dean Clark. I have been running this business for about 30 years. We employ 20 staff and have 2 separate departments dealing with sales and repairs and parts. Paul Smith has been with us for about 10 years as our accounts manager. He has been really good at his job and has helped us through some difficult times when the business was struggling. I was really surprised when Rose Banks, my assistant, came in to see me on the afternoon of the 1st of December to say that Paul had been looking at pornography on his computer. She said that Sally Evans had phoned her up very upset because she'd seen some very graphic pictures on his computer screen when she'd called into his office. Rose said that she'd spoken to Carl Evans from IT about this, and they told her that he had been looking at this and had a record of what sites he'd been on. I confirm that the contents of the witness statements are true to the best of my knowledge and belief.
You have a procedure in place for dealing with signing in and out. Is this important in your company?
It's very important, not only because of health and safety, but it's because of the protection of the individual employees.
Okay, so we can see that you carried out an investigation. Did you feel that the investigation that you carried out was reasonable?
Excuse me, Madam Chair. I feel that was a leading question of their witness. And that they've already produced their statement and the information is in there. And the witness has read his statement.
Agreed. Do the disciplinary rules also state that the amount of investigation required to be carried out will vary from case to case?
Yes, and we felt that because of the seriousness and the gravity of the situation, that the action that we acted reasonably, and the dismissal was fair and reasonable.
And you asked Rose to send a letter after the meeting?
Yes.
And you gave Paul the right to appeal in this letter?
Yes.
And did he appeal?
No, he didn't appeal.
Thank you very much.
Please could you explain your previous experience of conducting disciplinary hearings prior to this occasion?
I haven't really had much experience in this because we've, for the 30 years that I've run the company, we've had very, very few.
Thank you very
we
much.
haven't had any at all.
That's lovely, thank you very much. What steps you allowed Paul to take prior to being invited to the disciplinary hearing?
Well, we asked him to, we gave him the opportunity to comment on the images on the screen. We gave him that opportunity.
When did you give him that opportunity?
At the meeting.
So prior to the meeting, what opportunity did you give him to prepare?
No, we didn't.
Right,
We gave him an
thank you.
opportunity at the meeting.
Thank you. Can I ask you to read that paragraph that just starts out investigative, just that little sentence?
Investigative interviews are solely for the purpose of fact-finding, and no decision on disciplinary action will be taken until after the disciplinary hearing has been held.
Right. Can I therefore not refer you back to your own statement on page 2 and ask you to read out the section that starts, I went to see Carl.
I went to see Carl straight away and he showed me the printout of the sites. This confirmed it for me, though I have to admit I was surprised.
That's lovely. If I could stop you there.
Yes.
So in your statement, you quite clearly state that you had already made the decision that Paul had actually acted in that manner, and yet, according to your own policy on page 24, you've just confirmed that the purpose of the investigation is fact-finding and that no decision on disciplinary action will be taken until after the hearing. So is it not true that you actually went into the disciplinary hearing having already made your mind up that you were planning on dismissing Paul Smith?
No, that wasn't my understanding of it, because I was hoping that Carl might come up with something that would vindicate Paul, but as it happened, it didn't.
Right, so, but to conclude this point, we actually put it to you that according to your own statement, you had already made your mind up that you were dismissing Paul Smith. Thank you very much. I would just like to ask you, can you confirm to me your relationship with Paul over the last 10 years, please?
The relationship has been amicable, and I've always found Paul to be a good worker and always done his job well.
Lovely, thank you very much. That concludes.
Can we call Rose Banks, please?
Confirm your name and address to the panel, please.
Yes, my name is Rose Banks and I live at 1 Crossways, Howe Cable, Hereford.
I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, if that's okay with you. Can I ask you, sorry, to read your statement before we begin, please?
I, Rose Banks, state as follows. I have been employed by the respondent for 6 years. On the 1st December 2010, at about 3:15, I received a telephone call from Sally Wilkinson. She told me that she had gone to deliver some invoices to Paul Smith for processing, but found that he was not at his desk. His computer was on, and she was shocked to see pornographic images on the screen. She told me that they were quite upsetting.
What time did she contact you to report the incident?
At about 3:15, she telephoned me.
Okay. Did Sally say where Paul was at the time when she phoned you?
No, all she said was that she went into his office and he wasn't there.
Just before the meeting then, you had a chance to speak to Paul. At that time, did you offer him to have a witness present?
Yes, he was offered, but he didn't want to take anyone in with him.
Did he give you any reason as to why he didn't want one at that time?
No, he didn't.
Okay.
policy is to ensure that any disciplinary matter is dealt with fairly and in accordance with the disciplinary procedure. If you go through the process, do you think that it was dealt with in a fair manner?
Well, it was such a gross misconduct that we had to deal with it straight away.
Okay, can I explaining gross misconduct? At the point of the investigation, you had no firm evidence to suggest that it was Paul that actually had or logged onto the computer at that particular moment in time.
We had a printout from IT listing everything.
Which I remind you, Carl stated it may not have been him. It
Right.
could have been somebody else.
Well, from what we knew, it was Paul's computer. It was a printout of everything that had happened on Paul's computer. That is what we went on.
Okay, but at that time, was that a fair reflection of the investigation?
At that time, with the information we had before us, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. No further questions.
Can you please confirm your name and address to the panel?
I'm Sally Wilkinson at 26 Evnell Close in Leominster.
You've said Paul's not in his office at the time of the incident. Does he normally take his lunch break between the regular hours?
As far as I know, yes.
Thank you.
When you, Sally, went in to the office, is it something that you do on a regular basis at the same time every day?
Yeah.
So
it's
Paul
just
would have expected you at 3 o'clock?
Yes, he would have. After lunch every day I go and see him
Okay,
and leave the invoice with him.
right. Is it unusual to find Paul not in his office at 3?
It is unusual, yes. He is usually in the office when I go and see him.
Okay.
There is no doubt that Paul was good at his job, but he did try and become involved in decision making within the firm, which I felt went beyond that which he was there to do.
Standard disciplinary process in the company.
Yeah, I kind of understand that if you access a pornography site, which is filthy in my opinion, and you leave it for all and sundry to see, then you are more than likely to be dismissed. I think that that's quite obvious, isn't it?
Well, no, not necessarily, until you've carried out an investigation, surely.
But the investigation was carried out as I understand it, and the fact is we're quite a small business, and you cannot have people doing those kind of things, can you?
Do you feel that the process that was carried out with Paul was fair?
Oh, more than fair. As I said earlier on, really, Paul was getting a little bit big for his boots. He had access to things that he shouldn't have had access to.
So do you believe then that some of your...
Well, actually, you asked me a question. I would rather like to finish the answer, if you don't mind. The fact is that yes, I feel that the investigation would have been fair, and as I said earlier on, really, he had the ear of my father. My father was extremely fond of him, and so I feel that if he was dismissed, obviously he was, then the evidence was there and clear. Otherwise, my father would have given him the benefit of any doubt.
Okay, thank you very much. No further questions.
And you didn't leave your office during that time?
Well, only just to pop in and out, the coffee machine, etc.
And where's the coffee machine?
Oh, it's located right where it always has been, just down the corridor.
Is this on the second floor or the first floor?
This is on the floor of my office, whichever floor that might be.
Oh my goodness.
Shocked and devastated by my boss of 10 years, that my boss of 10 years couldn't believe I was capable of something like this. I told Barry that I hadn't done it, that it must have been someone else. He asked me how this was possible, as I had told him that I'd locked my computer before leaving. I couldn't really come up with an answer, but I hadn't done what they said. Barry said he couldn't even be sure that I was there, as I hadn't signed out and should have been in work at that time.
And so when you were brought into Barry's office and presented with the facts that they had discovered, how did that make you feel?
I was just completely shocked. I just couldn't believe that it had happened. I mean, I just wouldn't do anything like that. And with somebody I'd known for such a long time sat there accusing me of doing something like that, I just didn't know what to say. I mean, I was speechless. It was just unbelievable.